Your home with BuildAid on Mix 93.8. Proudly brought to you by AfriSam. AfriSam, creating concrete possibilities.
BuildAid on Mix 93.8 FM. Good evening. My name is Graham Alexander. Saaiman and Kay in the studio as usual. How you guys?
We're doing wonderfully well, especially because we have a bounty of women in studio with us tonight.
It's Women's Month, and Mix FM has been promoting Women's Month and will be for the rest of this month. We have 6 ladies in the studio this evening, 6 architects and the CEO of SACAP. Talking about different subjects, but the thread through it is there are probably not enough architects or women architects in the profession. So that's the underlying thread, if you like. Kay, we're also going to be having fun with a music question.
Yeah, we're looking for a girl group tonight. This one had 2 sisters in it, Anne and Nancy Wilson. Which band are we talking about? If you get it right, you can win some delicious ice cream. SMS us on 41348.
BuildAid on Mix, brought to you by AfriSam. Chatting to 6 ladies tonight, and we're going to be talking about architecture and the profession, more importantly, women in architecture. First up is Janette Saaiman. Janette, thanks so much for coming to chat to us.
It's my pleasure.
Janette, I got a couple of notes on each topic, and I'm going to rely on you to inform me and everybody else out there on these topics. You got into architecture because of Mary Poppins.
Yes. Yeah. I actually, when I was about 5 or 6, I went to see Mary Poppins with my cousin in Pretoria. And when we came home, we both drew pictures of what really impressed us. And I drew a picture of the London skyline with Mary Poppins on the clouds. And I think that's it. The skyline, London skyline.
It all starts somewhere.
Yes.
That's a great story. Janette, there's a perceived face of architecture that it's a white male profession building big buildings.
Yeah, I think, because you need quite big firms doing these big buildings. Most women don't stick out or stick to architecture in a big firm, basically because we normally have to juggle a career at a household. And so the face of the architect is usually this white male running a big architectural firm.
So there's a lack of role models when it comes to women in architecture.
Yes, I think as well, women, I think their approach to life is quite different to men. We tend to just buckle down, do the job, and then if it's successful and the client is happy, we feel content and we've done our job. So we're not really promoting ourselves. So when the media reports on architecture, it's normally on the bigger firms and the bigger jobs, and yeah.
The building industry is also very male, white male. Yeah. And architecture is very much part of that relationship with suppliers, manufacturers, and so on. Do you think women architects may battle with that overall industry infrastructure?
Well, I think it helps to have a couple of grey hairs because the guys
you don't take any nonsense.
Yeah, and they actually listen to you and they realize that you have a lot of experience. I think it's maybe a little bit more difficult if you're young. Luckily, when I started off, the firm I worked for, they supported us to a great extent. It was, you can do it, go for it.
When it comes to transformation, getting women into architecture, is South Africa unique?
I think because it's such a diverse we've got such a diversity in culture and experiences in history, and we actually
There are more opportunities?
Yeah, there's more opportunities. It's not as regulated. So, architecture is not just sitting in an office drawing drawings. It is actually, you can actually start going into urban design or landscape architects, or you can do community projects. So there's a lot of different aspects to architecture. It's not just big buildings.
Okay. Janet, thank you so much. We're going to chat to Althea Peacock next about an expression or a word, resilience. My name's Graham Alexander, and I'm very fortunate to be chatting to 6 ladies tonight in the architectural profession. And we need to say thank you too to GIFA, the Gauteng Institute for Architecture, who helped arrange this evening. My next guest is Althea Peacock. Althea, thank you so much for coming to chat to us.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Althea's words in architecture sometimes mean, I wouldn't say something different, but they have a deeper meaning. And I know a lot of architects will look at me with a with a sly grin. But one of those terms or a word is resilience.
Correct.
Give me a definition of what is it or isn't it?
So resilience, the definition of the word itself, means something or phenomenon that is in a state that whatever changes influence it or its system that it represents can revert to a former state, no matter what those changes are. And this idea of resilience has been applied to architectural systems, to urban systems, to ideas of how we understand our profession. So it's generally, the general understanding, at least, has been that it applies to how you design a building sustainably, how you design for buildings that need to survive natural disasters or be in war-torn countries, or any of those things which cause great stress to the architecture. That resilience is something that you're meant to be building into as an intent for the building.
Althea, with transformation,
Right.
what has been your experience in your practice, in your architectural practice, and as an observation generally in the profession?
Okay, so to relate to your question about transformation with resilience, my idea of resilience is that the word is a bit of a misnomer, and it means that you can't keep things in a steady state. Whatever changes you make to a system, those things mean that there is a change happening. And this has to relate back to the idea of transformation. Transformation, in my experience and in my architecture and in my practice, Lemon Pebble Architects, is that very little has transformed in terms of the bureaucracy that we operate within. But our endeavor and our practice is to work on spatial transformation rather than working on something that is just a political system or socio-political agenda. It is about making spaces relevant, about making architecture relevant, about making how you design urban spaces within their context relevant. So that is what the transformation is about. I'm not sure if you need me to talk about our experience as a business in terms of transformation, but there is another aspect to it.
When it comes to architects operating on their own, small practices, are they more alienated from that kind of philosophy or transformation? They're not in a big firm.
Yeah, I think Janet started speaking about it. Our experience has been that the bigger firms are white male dominated. I mean, it's a fact. And as a small practice, we're probably about 8 people at the moment, but we've grown over the past 10 years. When we started out, we didn't have mentors. We were under-resourced. We came out of architecture school, having practiced for a few years in well-known architecture firms, but we didn't know anything about the business of architecture, and that is where the transformation needs to happen. Knowing what you do as an architect, those are the tools that everyone is equipped with. But as a woman in the architecture field and a woman of color in the architecture field, you often get boxed into this is what you are only able to do. So there's battles that are ongoing, I think, in terms of how we experience transformation.
Althea, would it be correct to say that transformation is a journey rather than an occurrence?
For sure.
It's going to take a bit of time.
For sure.
And obviously it requires some effort and energy. And that's why you good ladies are here tonight to
Yeah.
talk about how we do this.
It is something that happens over time, and I think we've been fortunate to be able to interact with people who are in academia, as well as knowing people who are in the policy making structures. So the dialogue has to be ongoing. We need to educate ourselves as practitioners about how we should be addressing that transformation and what that context is in order to make that transformation happen. And it is a slow process, but I think, like you say, it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah. Althea Peacock, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, how are we doing with our chick band?
We got a lot of right answers in. Here's a clue for you. Russ says he loves our show. Now, there's a clue in that for you. We're looking for a chick band, and it had two sisters in it, Anne and Nancy Wilson. They were very popular in the late 70s and 80s. So if you know which band we're talking about, I'm not giving you any further clues, send us an SMS on 41348 and you can win some extraordinary ice cream.
Okay, you haven't mentioned once that it's one of my favorite bands.
No, I
Not that
haven't.
would help anybody.
No, who knows
Yeah,
that?
who
But
needs
yes,
to know that?
everybody, it's Graham's one of his favorite bands. There you go.
Your home with BuildAid on Mix brings you all sorts of interesting info about building. Graham Alexander chats to different guests every Wednesday evening between 6 and 7. Proudly brought to you by AfriSam. AfriSam, creating concrete possibilities.